cell phone to call one of them.
I have.
It's like a little cloth
Calling
sling.
Joe.
And she's having trouble holding it in the right place because there's so,
Oh, he's given us a code and everything?
yeah.
No.
Your stream is up and working,
Well,
so.
thank you, so we should behave appropriately.
I don't think he's being audio yet.
Okay.
Okay, so do we call,
No, we're gonna do one conference call up there, and then I'll probably have to use Sean's cell phone to call in Brennan.
oh, I see, okay, okay.
Have we heard from Sean?
I have not heard from Sean today.
I don't have Brennan, but I do have Joe.
Got it? Okay.
Should we call Joe?
No, we're gonna call Joe on the big phone and do a speakerphone.
Do we want to have him on?
Is Sean here?
I have not seen him, and I don't know,
I
I
shot
don't
him
have.
a text, I don't have a response yet.
You said you texted him, Kristen?
Yeah. I was gonna meet Adele this morning, she came in at 7:30, I said, well, I won't be there at 7:30, but maybe I'll be there more like 8. And I went up to the mayor's suite and texted her, hey, I'm here,
Control
are you?
delete?
And then she goes, she calls me back, she goes, oh, funny thing, I'm home sick today.
Oh,
Dodged a bullet there,
It's
Chris.
been a long, I mean, this week feels like it's been 84
You
years.
know, I tell you what, this week has been an interesting week, and, yeah,
Interesting in the way of
When
not
did,
good.
when did you send the agenda? Of course, I can't find it. It would have been Wednesday.
Yesterday morning.
Danielle Buck, that name's familiar.
yesterday morning, what?
Yeah, the agenda
You
came
I
out
think it
yesterday
was
morning.
about maybe 2 or 3 down from.
I got it. All right.
Okay, well, here's the numbers.
Yep.
So will this be just an open line that people can dial in and hear?
Well, no, this is just Joe and Brennan for the,
One at a time. Okay.
Are we starting without Sean?
I think we're going to have to.
Okay. Well, Danielle, we should probably wait and do the opening part of the meeting before we.
let's just go ahead and get them. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
let's
here
get
for
them
minutes
all.
at the-
Alright.
Yeah,
They always do.
Why do this after?
Because we're late already with them, they're probably
Yeah.
wondering where the heck we are.
But don't you need to do the public meeting statements?
Well, we can connect them, that's not taking any
Taking
action.
sitting there.
It's like they're attending.
Yeah, it's no different than if they were sitting right here, same difference. Okay.
That's probably Joe. Where the heck are they?
yeah.
Hi, Joe. I'm in a conference Brennan in right now, okay?
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Good.
can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, one moment.
I have been known to tell people to call me and then not have my ringer.
You've reached Brenda Miller. Please leave a message and I'll return your call as soon as...
Are you with us, Joe?
I'm here.
Okay, I got Brennan's voicemail. Have you talked to him this morning?
I have not, but I told him I didn't know if they were gonna call both of us, so I...
Okay,
things are
we
shut
can
down.
go forward.
Oh,
Somebody's in the shower.
okay. All right, hold on just a second.
I think we can go forward.
recess?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
A little more volume if you can.
It's all the way up. So we can put it on a mic. If you wanna put,
Well, can people hear?
yeah.
Okay, we can
Well,
hear.
I can, but I'm sitting right next to it.
I mean, if you put one of those mics close to it, it'll
All
pick
right,
up too.
we'll do it. Thanks, Jim.
Welcome.
Can you do the mic or,
Technology.
so I can
Well,
hear
it
it?
should be the tape recorder is what you want.
The tape recorder's right by it as well. Yeah. We're good.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Commissioner and Vice Chair Rick Vest, calling the meeting to order at 8:36 a.m. Also present are Commissioners Deb Shore, Commissioner Roma Edmondson, Chairman Sean Flowerday, and Commissioner Krista Yoakum, plus Dan Nolte, Carrie Egan, and Ann Ames. With that, the Open Meetings Act is posted in the rear of the room, and we will begin the meeting.
Okay, John, you want to take over?
First item up is approval of the minutes for March 12th.
Okay, move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Very good. Next up is legislative update with Jill and Brennan via teleconference.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. These are unprecedented times. So I will tell you, never in my wildest dreams did I think that this would be transpiring in this way. So appreciate the flexibility that you guys are providing to do this way, and certainly the governor's executive order that assists in this as well. So appreciate those efforts. Obviously, in unprecedented times, the legislature is going through an unprecedented process. As you all are aware from our correspondence on Monday, Speaker Scheer has announced that the legislature will be in recess until further notice, pending the COVID-19 issue. He has indicated that in conformity with the 50-person, what was then the 50-person rule, he didn't believe it was prudent to bring them back because under no circumstances could you really get them down below that 50 person, even with essential staff, and being in the chamber, et cetera. So at the end of the day, they are in recess until further notice. Some of you may be aware that, and I think we put this out on last Thursday after the board meeting, that the speaker had also indicated, had reminded folks that while there is a specific date for the legislature to convene, there is not a date by which they have to adjourn. So I think that was a signal to members we are going to get the session done, but when is really going to be dependent upon the virus and when it's safe for folks to come back to Lincoln. So I would just note that at minimum in that document, he indicated that they would be out until Monday of next week, when potentially there would be a callback, but has indicated to members that there would be sufficient time for a callback. Also in that same communication, as you may have seen, there is an indication that there may be quote-unquote an emergency appropriation to address the effects of COVID-19. My latest conversation with a member of the Appropriations Committee, well, first of all, let me say that Senator Skinner, as soon as the budget moved off of general file last Thursday, filed an amendment, AM 2936, which was attached with your report, that would do two things. One, it would appropriate $10 million to the Department of Health and Human Services to send out through the local public health departments that partner with FQHCs or federally qualified health centers to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Second, the amendment would appropriate $10 million to the government, an additional $10 million to the governor's emergency fund This would then be available to the governor to distribute as he deemed appropriate, to address some of those effects of the coronavirus. I would note that my conversation with a member of the Appropriations Committee on Tuesday was that they were still receiving information back about the cost and the effect of the virus. That they put out some feelers and had not finalized on a number yet. That there had been not discussion as of that point on finalization. On my list today is to call at least one or two members of the committee to see if there's any movement on a number and how that money might be going out. My sense is that their comfort level is probably going to be to stick the money into the governor's emergency fund, because that seems to make the most sense as far as providing maximum flexibility for use of the dollars. So I would not be surprised at all that the money would go there if it goes anywhere in addition to the dollars going to the local public health department. School one here. How about your sheet? Obviously, we have not met since the legislature has not met since last Thursday. So really, the only thing that transpired last Thursday was debate on the budget, and they did move the budget over to select file with no amendment to it. So the dollars that we saw appropriated that we referenced in our report remain intact. The one variable I would say equation that I would kind of put on everybody's radar screen, and then this is kind of really all the way down on page, you can kind of see our narrative on page 4, the top of page 4 of our report. The effect of the coronavirus or COVID-19, I think, will be significant. It will be significant financially to the state. I think all of us are aware that the events where we had boys basketball obviously cancel in Lincoln, but then you've had two relatively large events in the Omaha metropolitan area get canceled that have a significant impact on sales tax revenues, not just for those cities, but also certainly for the state. I had at least one conversation last week with a person who historically would know what those types of events would generate, what their financial impact to the state would be. And when we were talking about the loss of California Series, their first response to me was, oh my gosh, what is this going to do to our forecast? So I think it's safe to say that we are going to see adjustments in the coming months. It's important to remember that the way the budget operates is that anything left in the checking account or the general fund at the end of the year transfers over to the cash reserve. It's important to note that they're projecting a $331 million move over by the end of the year, so there is some flexibility there. But much like I think all of us are watching for the stock market, that number can come down rather rapidly. So I would just tell all of us to stay on our toes with regards to how this might look. I don't foresee that there's going to be a lot of adjustments to where the spending is, except for in that $131 million number that the committee has set aside for property tax relief in this budget. So I think that's the number that they will go to first for reduction. So with that, there's just not a heck of a lot else that there is to update. The one thing I would just note is that last week on Thursday, the Health and Human Services Committee did advance LD 956 and attached Amendment 2827 to that, and that contains the provisions of LD 1105, which was the audit bill, that integrity audit bill that Commissioner Vest has testified in support of. So I would just note that that bill did move as part of a package containing two other bills in it as well. There may be there's some discussion going on whether or not the department's concerns have been addressed with those three bills, because they were all three bills that are comprising that were bills that the Department of Health and Human Services had concerns about. So I would just note that there is some ongoing discussion of whether or not those department concerns have been sufficiently addressed or not. So we will keep our eyes on that. But it is difficult times when you're kind of stranded in offices and home to do a lot of that sort of talking to people one-on-one that we otherwise have the opportunity to do. So with that, I will close and try to answer any questions that you guys might have.
I don't think there are any questions.
Until they meet again.
Yeah, I mean,
One thing, if I could just maybe do this too and put this on folks' radar screen. This was something that Joe had written a note to himself, but then couldn't read his handwriting last Thursday. So I beg your forgiveness. One thing that I would just note is that interim studies, if we so desire, I think we could have a more thorough discussion next Thursday, because but I would just put it out there as thinking about what we could be doing, what we may want to do. My suggestion is I think we should certainly do one on 24/7, and I think we should do one as a follow-up to LR 183 would be the two that would come streaming to my mind, would be my recommendation. But then any other ones that we think might be useful over the summer. Now I would remind everybody we're in an election cycle, so there's probably not going to be quite as many interim study hearings as we've had in the past, but I think we saw a relatively successful process that we utilized with 183. Now, there were some things that happened during that process that obviously weren't ideal, but in the same breath, I would say that I think it was pretty good as an educational tool for the senator who looked at it and who, so I would just, who ultimately drafted something that decided not to drop it. I still think it's a valuable tool to use. So with that, I'm mouth shut. If there's any other thoughts on that, I think we can have a further discussion if everybody wants to think about it over the next week, and then we can talk next Thursday.
yeah.
Thanks for everything, Joe. Appreciate all you're doing in these difficult times.
Well, and thank you. And please, I know that Brennan and I are both fielding calls. I know Carrie and I talked yesterday. Please, if anything comes up that you think we might need to give a heads up to folks on or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to Brennan or I. We're here as a tool for dissemination of information as well. So if there's anything we can do to be helpful to you guys in this process, please let us know. We're happy to do it.
Sounds good.
Please give our best to Victoria. I'm sure she's in challenging times.
Well, we are set up in the Cohote household. Joe has the living room. She set up a spot in the bedroom. So her door's shut. She's doing a conference call right now. I'm doing a conference call right now. And our oldest son is loading in actually to Creighton Cup even as I speak. They're doing distance education to the room, to the home. So he's down in the basement doing that. So I just hope that our internet doesn't go down. Let's just put that, because that would be just awful right now. So, but thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Short.
Sounds like a well-oiled machine there at the Cohote household.
Yeah, CenturyLink loves them. Awesome.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, commissioners.
Now, do we,
Very good.
Okay.
Okay. We'll go ahead and obviously wait until 9, and wait until Jim gets here. For that, I guess let's head down to Chief Administrative Officer report.
This request came from Scott. I told him he didn't need to appear unless you have additional questions. I'll try to explain it as best I can. This is a grant that the Public Policy Center of the University intends to submit to the Department of Justice. It involves researching data, including data of our Crisis Center about domestic terrorism. And they're trying to evaluate the data and determine if they can identify characteristics, can make establish consistency of languages being used, and maybe reduce the threat. We'll have to invest some money to be able to do this, about $4,000 for some record-keeping changes, but that would be reimbursed as part of the grant. So essentially, there's no cost to the county for us to participate in this, and Scott was just asking for the letter of recommendation that I put in, and we've got it on letterhead. No risk to us, no downside that I see, and maybe some good things out of it. So.
Yeah, I had mentioned this last week in my report from that meeting, and an additional bonus is some staff training will come out of it, which is always a good thing, so.
I'm in full support of it.
Do we need a motion to have the chair sign this?
Yes.
Okay. I would move that the chair be authorized to sign the letter to the review and selection personnel for the grant.
And I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And then I think we just get the letter in Scott's hands, send him an image of it, and maybe let you know, let him handle it.
Okay, very good. Next up, discussion of board member meetings attended. Parks and Recreation.
We did hold that meeting last Thursday afternoon, and there were a number of items discussed that point to some positive things happening in our community. The first thing that came up was there were some members of the, I'm going to get the neighborhood association wrong, but there's a neighborhood association that's very concerned about what's going on at the Van Dorn Park and how what improvements will be put in and what will be kept, and there was a lengthy discussion about what they'd like to see. That was referred to the executive committee for further study.
Van Dorn Park, what is that?
Well,
9th and Van
Yeah.
Dorn, it's kind of
South.
that Rochester Park.
Right.
It has a righteous bike trail. you know.
A righteous bike trail.
Yeah.
Well, there are
In
several
its unimproved form.
There are several parks along Van Dorn Street, and I was trying to think which one it
Oh.
was, so, yeah, okay.
Well, and the big draw there to what I've learned is that there is a shelter that is in constant demand. You know, families or groups are using this shelter. It's
Yeah.
actually
It's very good.
used more for that than the neighborhood, but they're thinking as traffic is diverted because of the south bypass and there are fewer trucks, the neighborhood families and kids will start using that park more. That's why there's concern about what form the playground equipment takes. So we will hear more about that in the future. Two big items. One's fairly exciting. AARP has given a grant to the city of Lincoln to put in a master's plan equipment, and it's going to go at Woods Park. I don't know what it looks like, what all the masters will be doing out there in the park, but it's an exciting step. Piece of equipment or equipment that's going to be added, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. That was approved. The second item.
What type of equipment?
Yeah, see, they didn't give us that, and I mean,
Okay, I
not
just,
rocking chairs, I don't think, but I will stay tuned for more details.
Pickleball courts?
Playground equipment's going to be terrible, there's no insurance companies got involved.
Yeah, there you go.
Give me adult
The
playground.
pickleball courts are, I assume they're going to progress when the weather's right. There's 4 more going in at Peterson Park, but we haven't talked about that.
okay, I was just being facetious.
We can't have, there's no such thing as too many pickleball courts. They're all shut down right now, by the way. There's no play in Lincoln. The other item that came up that's very interesting was a proposed stage structure at the Lincoln Children's Zoo. This is going to be right along A Street, and it will face towards the zoo in an open area that's there on A Street. I understand there's going to be live music there and the opportunity, I think, for food to be served in this area and just this open green space where people can congregate once we start doing that again. That was approved and sent forward as well. So some big things happening.
Very good. For items B and C, I was in lockdown, so, Rome?
The Realtors Association meeting was canceled.
Okay.
Okay. And for the Lincoln Airport Authority, I did not go because I had a different appointment.
Did you go?
My name's on there, but I wasn't aware I was going, so I did not.
Okay.
I could have, would have, and should have, maybe, but I didn't.
Mutual aid meeting.
Well, we went to that.
Yeah. I think the biggest topic was, of course, they were all talking about COVID-19 and how that affects their operations and the need for both more information and for personal protective equipment. Some departments were certainly concerned about running out of that. I think those were the two biggest things we may hear more from. Yeah, Jeff, what else did we hear about? I mean, they really have, I guess, I'm sorry, they really have concerns about the order in which people call in and report, and are they going to be arriving on the scene and just have people exposed, and in their small volunteer departments, what that could do to them.
There was a concern that people should be calling the information hotlines and not 911 if they think they have symptoms, because then, they respond, and if they are, then they're all exposed. There's a lot of concerns there. One of the things, and they need to continue training, but now they have to limit those training opportunities to 10 people. They're looking at the option of Zoom. There was ongoing discussion, of course, about their radios. They're working with the radio shop now to, Todd Beam at the radio shop is asking each department to bring in 6 of their radios at one time to check and see, rather than buy a complete new system, how they might kind of merge it and update it so it won't be quite as big of an expense. So, I think that was, there was one concern, MSOA, that's one of your committee assignments, that people who are the rural squads that are under the MSOA, which is uses LFR medical protocols, was operating one way, and then at the other agencies that mostly have Dr. Bonta, who operates independently, was kind of operating under a different set of medical protocols. So there were some concerns about when they respond in a mutual aid situation. I mean, it really hasn't been, they haven't ever had that problem, but because things are changing so quickly, there's just a lot of concerns.
And thereby emphasizing the need for National Emergency Medical Services Protocol, which we've been working on at MSOA, and I think Lincoln Fire will be transferring to a national standard that is coming along.
There's one thing that I found interesting, that there's an ultrasonic machine that can automatically disinfect things. Jim Densberger from Malcolm was talking about it. They use it at Malcolm High School to disinfect like the locker rooms and the football equipment and the uniforms and whatever else. And I said, well, how does it operate? Is it a wand? Nobody seemed to know, but Malcolm Public Schools was offering it to Malcolm Rural Fire so they could disinfect their rig after, so he suggested that other agencies reach out to schools or businesses that might have something like that available, so they aren't hand wiping every single surface after every single.
Great solution.
It's cytotoxic. It breaks down the cell walls. Literally vibrates it to death.
Okay.
That's great cooperation.
Yeah, 3 entities.
We've got just enough time for LEBO elected officials forum.
This was handled by a phone conference call, and it was totally dominated by the COVID-19 discussions about what the city, the county, and the school district are doing to prepare for that. And, everyone, it was well publicized what those entities are doing. There's a lot to add.
It lasted probably 20 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. And I think all LIBA's meetings are now via phone. There are no more get-togethers going.
Okay. Then we will jump back up on the agenda here at 9 o'clock to item number 3 for Severe Weather Awareness Week, Vigilant Guard Exercise and Emergency Management Annual Report with Jim Davidson.
Talked about continuing this and talked to Jim as well as we can get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since we got a little severe weather today, maybe it's not such a bad idea.
No, I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
You know, just because COVID-19 is here doesn't mean that other things can't happen.
Absolutely.
We can
Just
still
like
have
wearing,
tornadoes.
just
Just
like wearing your
self-inflicted.
seatbelt when you drive, you can still have an automobile accident.
Salt Lake had an earthquake yesterday.
Salt Lake.
Big certification.
Is that unusual?
It's gonna drop down to 29 degrees.
Is that unusual for Salt Lake?
They've gotta make another ball, because it's 64 degrees today.
Is that part of the Yellowstone?
Yeah,
So-
I think it's spring.
How far is Yellowstone?
You have to cover them,
They are covered.
Oh, that far.
But, I mean, the
Okay, I
thing
didn't know
about it
that
is
far.
that when it gets warm, then they break their ball apart inside. And so what they gotta do then is when it gets, they've gotta
I'm sorry.
make that ball again to protect that queen. Everything revolves around the queen.
As a kid, spent a lot of time at Yellowstone.
Roman's a fan of that analogy.
What?
Roman's a fan of
I just said I
I was
love
gonna
beekeepers.
guess.
They're one of my preferred groups of people.
One of my aunt-
All these little
uncle
interesting
knows my
facts.
doctor
Hey,
works
it's such
in
an
Salt
important
Lake.
part of the environment.
Well, it is. We didn't have bees, we'd be starving.
All right, I think I'm ready to roll.
Thanks, Danielle.
I apologize too if I look like I'm squirming in my chair or I'm wincing. My 28-year law enforcement career left me with a bad back and a bad attitude. So, as I said, some mornings like this when it's cold and damp, I'm subject to a few back spasms. It's nothing that limits my mobility. It just kind of,
If you're better standing, please do.
I will do. So, as I said, once I get myself situated, I'm good to go. But like I said, I don't want any of my facial reactions or anything like that to be misinterpreted other than my bad back. So on that note, I will roll along. Yeah, when I spoke to Carrie yesterday, I kind of rolled 3 different topics into one. First, I'm going to address our annual report from 2019. So the information I'm sharing is what we accomplished during the calendar year of 2019. Everything that we do is tied to our 5 mission goals on the front end of prevention, protection, and mitigation. I think oftentimes that's what the general public assumes. Somebody is out there doing that stuff, but it really falls to emergency management and the traditional ones of response and recovery. When you show up in the red windbreaker with the block letters on it and you say, "I'm here to help," that's what people think of, the old civil defense things along those lines. But as I said, really, most of our attention is on those front 3. The best way to handle a problem is to prevent it in the first place. So that's really what we focus on, and I'll kind of preface that as I mention these things. Looking at our service-based budgeting items as far as breaking it down into those 3 broad categories, we do a lot of time with the planning, a lot of time and attention on that. Again, reinforcing that, and I'll mention that too with Severe Weather Awareness Week. Our activities, trainings, and exercises, a lot of what I'm able to do is really on the shoulders of our volunteers. It's a great group to work with, not just the Mutual Aid Association, but then my EOC volunteers. Our regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday, the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which was just a couple of days ago, so we did that via a conference call. I have 5 duty officers, so I met with them in person at the EOC with proper social distancing, but like I said, we had a real good response from our volunteers phoning in so that they could participate. So as I said, that's what it gives us an opportunity to do. And then that preparedness is really the focus of our public education and outreach. You know, we can't expect people to follow best recommended practices unless we tell them what those are. And that's where the COVID-19 situation that we're in right now is an excellent example of that. And we still get a lot of feedback from the community about our outdoor warning signs. It's a good problem to have, that people have that expectation that if Mother Nature is posing an immediate threat, those sirens are going to go off. So again, we always focus on those as well. We are in the midst of updating our 5-year hazard mitigation plan. It does not technically expire until June, so we work closely with the Lower Platte South NRD. They retained JEO Consulting, so we reached out not only to our county and city departments, but our other county entities throughout Lancaster County, Bennett, Hickman, Waverly, all of those, that it's a situation where we want everybody to take advantage of the hazard mitigation funding that may be out there. It's still the 75-25% match and under the best case scenario, so each community or each entity in a project would have to come up with its 25% share. But it's a great opportunity for some of those long-range planning. So the other thing about it too is, in the wake of the flooding from last year, there should be a lot of hazard mitigation funding available in these next couple of cycles, and the best way to maximize your eligibility is to have that plan in place in the first place. So that should be done here in near order, but as I said, we worked most of last year to go through that. We're always participants in the Emergency Management Performance Grant. It's federal money that's administered by the state at the local level, and on the front end, you can qualify for up to a 50% reimbursement of your salaries and benefits. Since it's a pool of money that's available to all 93 counties, that's what they do on the first cut, they meaning NEMA, the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency. So after they've allocated that 50% for salaries and benefits to full-time emergency management employees, if there's any money left, you can reapply for a reallocation. And we have had a good deal of success with that in the past. I was also appointed to the City of Lincoln, the Mayor's Climate Resiliency Task Force. We met twice last fall, and our final meeting has been continued and now canceled for a third time. But again, it's just kind of focusing on that. The buzz term that they use is being carbon neutral. The Veritas Group out of Omaha is the consultant that is shepherding that flock, and I think there's probably 35 or 40 participants all together to represent county, city, the university, and some of the community partners in that. But again, in that planning realm, that's what we focused on. We work closely with our local partners in order to do that. COOP is always a popular discussion, continuity of operations. So we look at that not just at the internal department level, but outreach to some of these other places, working closely with healthcare facilities and things along those lines in order to make sure that they are as prepared as they can be. And obviously anything we can do to foster that, we certainly will. As I said, we work closely with our emergency management volunteers, the mutual aid fire departments, and again, the Lincoln Amateur Radio Club, an incredible resource that we have readily available. I was just speaking to Ed Holloway yesterday. Primarily, they can offer transport services for Meals on Wheels if we're dealing with blizzard or winter weather conditions. Some of the more traditional things that we may anticipate. Ed called me yesterday and said, Tabitha, who facilitates that Meals on Wheels program, and then Randy Jones, true agent partner, they may see some additional need for delivery drivers if the senior centers aren't open to do that. So as I said, the entire amateur radio club, a great group to work with, and they're disappointed about the spotter training, but I'll touch on that in a bit. Lancaster County is a member of the Southeast Nebraska Emergency Management Group. 14 counties throughout the southeast part of the state. Has been around since 2006. We meet monthly. We have a projects list that we participate on, and I won't burden you with the acronyms because they're up there. But again, it's a pretty simple, well, I won't say simple, it's a pretty straightforward process as far as if you've identified a project that you would like to implement, you can go about that. The Salamander credentialing that we use to not only track our personnel but our equipment is a good example of a regional resource, a regional project that this group identified a number of years ago, and now it's fully implemented not only in our 14 counties but pretty much across the state. So that's kind of the focus of that, is it needs to have a regional nexus. If an individual department needed some radios or some equipment, you can apply for that, but you have to articulate there's a regional need. It serves a regional benefit. The incident dispatch team from our 911 center is a good example of that. They work for the city of Lincoln, the police department in the 911 center, but that incident dispatch team can be dispatched anywhere in the state where there's a need. If the public safety communication system were to crash, they literally have a communication center on wheels that they could deploy. So they can apply for funding, for training, things along those lines, because they're considered that regional or that state asset. So sometimes people kind of get lost in that, or it's a little bit difficult to connect the dots, but that's the focus of it. So each year we go through this process, but when the funding is granted, you have up to 3 years to spend it. So that's where, and again, it's just internal. When we talk about the 2019 work plan or the 2020 work plan, they may be projects we identified then, but they're not completed until 2021, 2022. So I'll answer any questions about that, but like I said, that's the system that's been in place. It works very well, and as I said, we're a good partner when it comes to that. As far as what we accomplished in 2019, we participated in 12 formal training exercises. As part of that EMPG grant, your emergency management employees have to participate in at least 3. So we never have a problem meeting that minimum of 3. There are some emergency managers in the state who are really hard-pressed to document participation in 3. Those can be as simple as a drill. Most of them are tabletops, but again, the functional and the full scale, it's where we're not only sitting around talking about it, we're actually mobilizing the forces, we're going through it. A couple of them, again, active shooter in the world today is certainly a hot topic, and it was actually the Department of Homeland Security hosted one at St. E's that I was invited to participate in. The Pipeline Association always does a good job of hosting tabletops across the state with that, partnering closely with the railroad and some other private sectors in order to do that. Lincoln Public Schools has kind of taken the lead in reunification. If you're familiar with standard response protocol, lockout, lockdown, there's also standard reunification method from that same I Love You Guys Foundation. LPS is on board. Mark Hosking, my deputy director, and I have been working with our other school districts in Lancaster County with some assistance from the state. They have one of their policymakers from the University Public Policy Center assigned to try to coordinate that across the state. So I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve there, and I'll share that with you in the 2020 update. The state saw a need to question some of the issues regarding water source, water supply, things along those lines. So in the wake of the flooding in the spring last fall, they hosted a tabletop exercise out at the NEMA state headquarters that was actually facilitated by the EPA out of Washington, D.C. NEMA has adopted what's called the Knowledge Center. Essentially, it's a virtual EOC, a database where anybody in the state, obviously, emergency management has a silo and healthcare facilities have a silo in order to do that, but that's what we're looking to do to implement that. So if a community is struck and they're asking for assistance, we go through the official paperwork channel. This is kind of the default documentation. So if there's a question of who did what, did you ask for that help, things along those lines, Knowledge Center is supposed to be that collection point for that. And then last October, we had participated in a full-scale helicopter search and rescue operation. Hickman Fire was the lead local entity, and I think we ended up fishing somebody out of Stagecoach. We were moving between wagon train and Stagecoach based on the weather and things along those lines. But the primary focus of that was to test the military's ability to talk to the first responders and the hospitals on the ground, and they were able to do that. Another responsibility I have is the local emergency planning committee. The focus of that is on hazardous materials. State law requires that we convene this group at least once a year. We've kind of combined that with our local Lincoln Lancaster County Healthcare Coalition, since they play such a significant role in that. But as far as the committee members, we probably have 40 to 50 invitees on that list. and we meet every other month. So we with holidays, and there may be some bumps, but during 2019, we met 5 times to convene that group, again, just to keep them aware of what we're doing. And again, it gives us an opportunity to really cement a lot of those community partnerships. I do the best I can to track all of our volunteer hours throughout the year. Obviously, most of those come from the activations of our Emergency Operations Center. And that's the other thing I do this time of year, is reach out not only to them, but what I refer to as my deputy directors. There's some contact throughout the county who've been issued an emergency management radio. So if they get the notification from me that the EOC is activated, they have that immediate communication through the radio system in order to do that. So we have our regular slate of meetings. As I said, we meet once a month. A handful of times or so, we may meet at our storage facility at 444 Cherry Creek, or our hangar that's out on the Airport Authority property, just to make sure that the equipment we have stored there is in good shape and ready to go. As I said, nearly 500 hours of EOC activations, 25 total activations. All of those were based on severe weather. Literally to the day this time last year, we were fully activated to deal with the flooding issue. And then we had the Sunday, May 5th tornado that touched down near Pioneers Park and removed the old Dairy Sweet ice cream stand. So some damage from there. That was classified as an EF2 tornado, but no injuries. And again, I'd like to think the public was paying attention. They were monitoring the weather, and when they heard the sirens, they knew it was time to seek shelter. And then some of the community activities that we participate. Some of them are annual events, the Severe Weather Symposium, Uncle Sam Jam. We participate, assisting tracking security and medical personnel assigned to the UNL football detail through our credentialing system. The Amateur Radio Club has their field day, and then the Cornhusker State Games. And then in August, we did a somewhat unannounced mobilization drill. I let my duty officers know it was coming, but I sent an email out Friday afternoon. Saturday morning we assembled, and we've got some small tents that can be used at a volunteer center, things along those lines. On short notice, I asked my volunteers to show up, assemble those tents. More importantly, disassemble them and put them back in the boxes they came out of. And if they did that, they got a pizza lunch. So, like I said, we try to do at least one of those full-scale activation drills a year, and we did that in 2019. We always focus on preparedness. These are the results from last year's Severe Weather Awareness Drill. We had nearly 47,000 participants in the county do that tallied 144 facilities, and I've got a follow-up to that. And then in September, we always focus on National Preparedness Month. FEMA Ready.gov rolls that out. On a monthly basis, we test our outdoor warning sirens on the first Wednesday of the month, 10:15. If today were the first Wednesday of the month, we wouldn't test them because it's cloudy, it's overcast. Don't want to create that confusion, but we've got a good following on Twitter and Facebook that I make that call early in the morning and send that out. And like I said, people are very receptive to that, and we'll still get some calls. It's 10:15, where are the sirens? So again, anything to do to take advantage of that. We test the radio system on a monthly basis, and the new siren we were able to install was put in Roca last spring. The old one was very old, it still worked, but that community is growing, and it was actually on private property. So we needed to move it to village property and took that advantage to put a new siren in. So on the preparedness front, those were some of the things that we were able to do. I take every opportunity I can to show off our new EOC. There is some screening, nobody can just bang on the door and say, hey, can I come in and look around? But schools, community groups, community partners. So we hosted 12 formal tours where somebody scheduled an appointment, and we gave them that. We also give as many presentations as possible to the community. So we did 19 of those. And then site visits, Duncan Aviation comes to mind. We were invited out there last fall just to meet with their safety team, their management team, and then walk the facility. Here's what we're doing now. What should we do as far as best recommended practices? So like I said, anything that we can do for that, the volunteer fire departments, when they host their open houses, pancake feeds, things along those lines, we certainly look to participate in those as well. That just kind of gives you a snapshot of some of the groups that we meet with on a regular basis. Amateur Radio Club is a great partner. I'm on the Lincoln Public School Safety Committee, so if they are looking at a better way to do business, so to speak, as I said, the volunteer fire departments and the Southeast Nebraska Emergency Management Group really focus on emergency management needs. I've been a member of ATAP, that's the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals. That dates back to 2009. I carry that over from my police experience to emergency management, but that's what the focus is. It primarily looks at behavioral aspects, trying to identify who that potential next active shooter may be. There's a lot more to it than that, but we've got a team in Lincoln and Lancaster County to look at those. I probably should have put in bold type or larger letters about the new EOC. We moved in the week before Christmas in December of 2018, and that's still my standing rule with people. If you ever set foot in the basement of the 233 building, you've got to come and look at the new place. So like I said, and it is, I mean, I could literally see the shock, the reaction from people when they set foot, like I said, especially if they've ever been in the other place. It has worked as ordered. We have done some minor upgrades again to make sure we are as ready, we are as self-sufficient as we can be. Implementation of the new radio system, although it was delayed quite a bit, really went smoothly. We issued the radios that emergency management has to our volunteers and other partners last May. And again, they worked as ordered. A pretty flat learning curve if you were familiar with the old radio system. Really not much, just a basic orientation to the new radio system. We also have a mass notification system in place. AlertSense is the provider, and MEMA, Nebraska Emergency Management, offers that to the locals at no cost. We had to go through the FEMA licensing process in order to do that. I have an account for emergency management that the 911 center has access to. So those emergency alert systems and the WIA, the wireless emergency alert, you can essentially identify that polygon where you want that notification to go out, similar to an Amber Alert. So if you have a wireless device and you're in that zone we've identified, that will pop up on your phone, your tablet. So we have that in place. I mentioned it earlier, the EMP reallocations. Patty Talamonte, my planning specialist, literally accounts for every penny. I kid you not. And if there's a possibility that we can get some of that reallocation after the salaries and benefits have been issued, she does a great job monitoring that. We host the basic storm spotter training and certification every year. Brian Smith from the National Weather Service reached out to me early last year and said, you've got a group that we can take to the next level as far as the advanced spotter training. So we were able to host that last April, and we probably had 18 to 20 people attend on that. Certified storm spotters, members of the Amateur Radio Club, things along those lines. So again, really, we're on a very good place, and that gave us the opportunity to bump it up a little bit. And then I already alluded to it, we have our credentialing system fully in place. We assist the university during all football games to track their security and medical.
Jim.
Yep.
Salamander.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm so dry.
I've got mine somewhere. I
Very
got
good.
salamandered once.
The name of the company is Salamander
Oh, okay.
Technologies. And that's, I thank you for catching me on that, because when we get rolling in the world of acronyms or other things like that, in the inner circle, if you say salamander, we know you're talking about this, not some little creature crawling around. So I'll have to send you their company logo, but that's what it is. So again, yeah, that's just literally the name of the company, the vendor. So my deputy director, Mark Hosking, he wanted to be here this morning. He is dealing with the COVID-19, working closely with the health department and our other community partners. Last March, he was deployed to Fremont Dodge County when Fremont was literally turned into an island for the flooding. He got on a Black Hawk helicopter that Sunday morning, went to Fremont for 4 days, and then I kid you not, it was literally a few hours after that, we had the catastrophic event at Lincoln Water, which we were able to, but as I said, he did a great job with that. Folks at the state level recognized that that is a role he could fill. That's a very short list. And so he was deployed to be their EOC director for 4 days, just to give the Dodge County EM a break. Tom Smith, I believe, is his name. So, and again, I see that as great. That's a great experience for us. We, throughout the county, are that much better prepared because Mark had an opportunity to do that. He was a participant in the inaugural Lancaster County Leadership Program, successfully graduated as far as I know, and thank you. I know he couldn't make it to the graduation ceremony because I'm afraid I sent him elsewhere, but, and he made mention of that. He really welcomed the opportunity to participate that, and after every session, he would come back with, you know, did you know this, did you know that? So, again, it was a very positive experience for him. And next month, he is scheduled to complete this MBPP, the Master Exercise Practitioner Program, which is administered at the federal level. Again, a pretty exclusive club to be in. He had to go to Maryland, where they have their headquarters. It's a year-long program. You have to spend a week there at the beginning, a week there at the midpoint, and then you present your capstone project at the end. And I think they start with about 40 or 50 from around the country. And then they have their internal working group, but he is scheduled to complete that, I believe, next month. For me, as I said, I'm a member of Lincoln's threat assessment team. I went through the credentialing process. It was a very humbling experience for me to be certified as a certified threat manager because the focus of that is a lot on behavioral health. But like I said, I survived the testing and the recertification. I've been a member of the Boy Scouts, the Cornhusker Council executive board for the past few years, and I've been teaching criminal justice at the university since 2010, and I'm transitioning to the virtual world. So, but other than that, again, I really wanted to recognize Mark for his accomplishments because he was really able to deal with a lot of that. As far as the short-term goals, I mentioned this last year. The storage space that we have is great. I've been in discussions with Terry Wagner, Todd Duncan from the Sheriff's Office about the space there at 444 Cherry Creek. And then again, by the grace of the Lincoln Airport Authority, the space that we have there is rent-free. So again, something that we can take ownership of would be a good thing. And again, trying to engage the community, the CERT program, community emergency response teams, that's kind of been touch and go based on funding, but at the regional level, we have a project in the southeast region, and Cass County has some expertise in that area to administer that moving forward. So the challenges, as always, are the budget. I don't anticipate any significant changes in our budget for the coming fiscal year. In 2019, there was that issue of keeping the general public informed, aware, a very fine line between awareness and paranoia, and we're seeing that now. The other thing, too, before the flooding was that thought of complacency. You know, this is Lancaster County, this is Nebraska, it would never happen here, would it? And as long as I can get them to kind of buy into that would it, it's like, okay, I've got your attention, and now it's just sharing that information. So, and I think those are things that are always going to be in place.
I really like that situational awareness versus paranoia.
Yep.
You know, you can operate around heavy machinery and be safe. You can operate in a diverse number of areas where there are risks associated, but if you take the appropriate precautions, you can be successful.
Correct.
And that's what you're promoting.
Yep, absolutely. And that's just it. And again, focusing on those recommended best practices. We can't expect people to do what they should do unless we're giving them guidance along those lines. So we've made some upgrades in our technology. We have expanded our teleconferencing capabilities at the EOC. Drones, and I'm told I'm officially supposed to refer to those as unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. But we convened a working group last year and met a couple of times. Emergency management doesn't have a drone, and at this point, I don't need a drone as long as I know who does. And that's what we were able to do with the sheriff, police, fire, from the private sector. Burlington Northern Railroad has an incredible program in place to promote that to the next generation. The university and Union College are looking at adding it to their curriculum. So again, as I said, it's obviously that emerging technology, and the technology is always going to be light years ahead of the bureaucracy, but we're doing the best we can to keep up with it. That's the end of my annual report. I just wanted to mention a couple of things about Severe Weather Awareness Week. That's still a go for next week. We'll promote it, and again, focusing on that preparedness, making sure people are looking at that, paying attention, and again, down to that possibility versus probability. Situational awareness versus paranoia. We just want people to have that in their equation. Unfortunately, the bad news is the drill got canceled. I came to the office Sunday afternoon, I put it together, I sent it out to about 225 people, and then a couple of days later, I got notice from Brian Smith that it had been canceled and it won't be rescheduled. But we still have the buy-in from the general public, and we have the online link on our website that, and I've encouraged people, if you do it at home, at school, at your place of business, do that with the proper conditioning on, hey, be mindful of COVID-19. Even though it's just a drill, maybe rather than physically moving your staff, talk through, hey, we have X number of staff on the premises, how many areas do we have? And that's the other thing, as we try to transition to this no more than 10-person rule. Again, just kind of some balance. So I'll leave that on the website and encourage people, if they do conduct that internal drill, they can fill out the form and send it to me. This is a breakdown of the numbers. 2018 was a bit of a blip because the schools were doing standardized testing and we kind of lost, so you can see that dip from 17 to 18, but then we reclaimed that ground last year with the 46,967 people and up to 144 entities. So we were pretty 9290, had 144 different entities submit reports last year. So as I said, I'll put an asterisk next to 2020. But again, I want to encourage folks to participate in that. And that's just it. Dr. Ken Dewey was really looking forward to the symposium because it was the 20th anniversary. He may be able to reschedule that later in the year. We're transitioning to an online version of the Storm Spotter certification. The folks have to be certified every 3 years, so not everybody has to do it every year. And the Amateur Radio Club manages that database, so we can identify who needs to recertify this year, and we should be able to facilitate that. Vigilant Guard, the red star on the calendar was for Tuesday, May 19th. We just don't know. It sounds like more likely than not that we will not be able to hold it. Again, the date we had identified was Tuesday, May 19th, to simulate a large-scale catastrophic event, but we were physically going to deploy resources to Lincoln, the LFR's training facility at 3rd and South, and then the health department was going to do some things near Salt Creek at Sun Valley in Charleston to deal with a hazmat spill there. As I said, it was scheduled to run the entire week. Wayne, Fairbury, Scotts Bluff have their own problems. Essentially, it's on hold at this point, but I just wanted to mention that for your awareness. So I apologize for going a few minutes over, but I'll certainly answer any questions.
You've been busy. Thank you so very much.
Job
Yes.
security. I
Job
certainly don't
security.
mean to make light of it, but yeah, and that's just it when I was sitting down and looking at some of these things. And that's where EMPG holds me accountable to log all those activities. So I do that on a spreadsheet. I have to submit quarterly reports, but that's what I look at. And again, the people I have the opportunity to work with I certainly want to give them recognition and credit as well.
Quick comment. I want to thank you for your mentorship of Mark. You know, over the past 3 or 4 years, really have just seen him grow in his knowledge base and his confidence and his skill set and all of that. And that's due to your assistance. So, thank you.
The first time he told me to go into the garage to get a spanner out of the boot of the lorry, I had no...
You said what?
I had no idea what he was talking about, but I found the wrench in the trunk of the truck, and it was all good. So, but I thank you for that. I'll certainly share that with him, and it's certainly been a two-way street with that, especially with his prior experience in public health. That aside from the current situation, just again, that situational awareness that he has, we know we have to do things formally, we know we can accomplish quite a lot informally, but you still have to close that loop. So,
Don't let the word get out any, Jim, about what you're doing.
hidden in plain sight. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to have us take a quick 5-minute break before we move on to the next item here. So let's reconvene here at 9:41.
Oh, yeah.
is having the 17-year cycle locust swarms right now.
Just like not sure what's happening.
So we have to go home and read Revelations.
Right.
Yeah, I know, I was gonna say, where's the Bible?
No, I was reading a BBC article about that last night. Yep. Okay.
We think we're in control.
How true.
We need 2 more minutes for that one.
Yeah, let's do it. Thank God the newspapers are still up. That's all I've got to say.
I shouldn't
When
be
they go
trusted
down,
with this.
yeah, yeah, we don't want to see the day when we don't have newspapers. Although they are getting expensive.
Yeah.
When I used. Online, yeah.
Online's very affordable.
When I delivered the paper in Greenwood, Nebraska, we had to go around with our little cards and punches and collect money from the customers
Oh,
individually.
yeah, yeah.
You've learned a lot about members of the community when you're asking them for money for their paper, which has already been delivered.
Oh, newspaper collection.
Oh, God, those were the days.
Did that with
My
my son.
first job.
Okay. We will go ahead and begin here with the COVID-19 update and response. Thanks for letting us take that quick break. Item A is the memo to county employees regarding COVID-19 related employment policies. I believe we do have a consensus amongst the board. The policy we intend to put forward is very similar in nature to what the city has put forward.
It's not linked.
It is not linked, because it has not gone through
not
the
linked.
Personnel Policy Review Board yet, and
Oh, okay.
they were
Gotcha.
attempting to assemble this morning and were unable to get quorum. We are going to, I intend to have that policy out by Tuesday, absolutely no later than Tuesday. But county employees should be confident. We are discussing it, it's very much planned, it's going to be very similar to what the city does, slightly tailored to some of our needs. There's a few minor changes, but it's going to be very similar to the city policy. I believe we intend to make it retroactive to the day that LPS closed, it's March 16th. We don't have any confirmed cases here in Lancaster County yet, so we do believe that we can probably wait as long as Tuesday, although that, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolute drop dead date. So that's that, but there is, I think, consensus among the board on where we'll be landing with that, and we'll have that out shortly.
So we'll do something to department heads, elected officials, and deputies that says, reassure your staff, this is coming, and then we'll do something to all staff on Tuesday.
Please.
I think that's really important to let staff know that we are making those considerations right now.
Yep.
So Personnel Policy Board will see it Tuesday morning before us.
Hopefully.
Possibly Monday, but.
It looks like Tuesday now, according to these emails, I don't know. So will we see it before Personnel Policy Board or not?
Yes, we'll get
Okay.
you a draft copy of it so you can see it
Okay.
prior to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've had extensive discussions on this, and I think there is one point that we've kind of had some different perspectives on, and in order to, I think the board's goal is to be as supportive of our employees as we feel like we possibly can, given all the other considerations we have going on at this time. We just want to make sure we get that in the best possible place that the board can support. And that might be the last point, if I understand it correctly.
Yep.
So it is coming. We will have it. It will be available no later than Tuesday.
Yep. Yeah, Tuesday's an absolute drop dead.
These are people we greatly value, whose contribution to our community is important.
Particular concerns of our 24/7 operations, the jail, and
That's
making sure that we're supporting employees who cannot work from home, who have to be coming
Right.
here every day.
Right.
That's just it. We
Right.
have folks who are out there who are innocent, well, and we don't use that word, but
They're all
whose
essential.
absence is very difficult to overcome for those who are in charge.
Right. Okay, moving down to item B. I think this sort of was what we're saying, it's a recommendation coming from HR and from the attorneys. We discussed it yesterday when I was talking with City County HR. I mean, this is obviously not the environment that you want to onboard new staff into, right? Like, how do you ingratiate someone into, office culture when there isn't an office and the people who would train them at their new, so I think we go into at least for the time being, a hiring freeze, and I think we have to delay the hiring of new employees that we have authorized recently, unfortunately.
We have some concerns.
Yeah.
I don't think that we can stop the continuous hiring at
Absolutely.
I don't think that's a
Absolutely.
responsible choice. And Pam has also reached out to me that she is in the final stages she's offered the position to an account clerk too, and an engineer 4, and since she's had such a difficult time trying to fill those positions, I'd hate to backtrack on that, as long as she feels like she can appropriately orient those people.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But
The jail certainly, because they have an ongoing culture, they might be, certainly.
We've always had trouble with these hiring freezes in the past. I wonder if maybe if a sternly worded memo saying we discourage any new hires, because there are so many exceptions to it. And if we have layoff reduction in force, these new employees are going to be the first to go under the protocols that exist now. So just remind people that now is not the time to be hiring new employees.
And maybe that's it, and then.
Absolutely essential.
Right, and the same thing with, bringing on new hires if it's, only essential, otherwise we recommend it be postponed. And leave the discretion once again to our talented department directors and elected officials.
And I do think there's a world of difference between, we've authorized several department heads to make new hires in the last couple of weeks. Nothing's even been posted online. It's a big difference between going forward and filling those spots and Pam's situation where she has a candidate picked.
Yeah.
She just has to move
And
forward.
I think we need to leave the exception in place too for LSO, just because there's
Agreed.
timelines associated with their ability to
Agreed.
hire.
LSO and so,
Can you draft something for Sean's signature?
a strongly worded letter, very stern.
Well, then this would also go into effect with the chief administrative officer.
Well, that's down the road. I wouldn't stop that process.
Okay.
That sounded strongly worded.
Do you have a comment on that one?
Go, I wouldn't delay that. There's got to be.
We love
Well, and
to
it's
carry.
already, we've outsourced it, so we're not working on it.
We're not
internally.
working on it ourselves.
And nothing about that's been fast yet anyways. I don't
Right.
think we have to worry.
That's nuts.
Now they already talked
Don't
about,
pump the brakes.
using conference.
Yeah.
I'm probably not even
Etc.
gonna budget for that new person to start until July 1.
Yeah.
I think it might be later than that.
So,
I'm hoping for July 1.
okay. Item C, waiver of credit card fees for online use.
Okay, this idea was brought to me by Roma.
Actually,
With somebody brought it to Roma probably.
Well, it was the Lincoln Business Independent,
Yeah,
Lincoln
Lincoln Independent
Business Association that reached out to Roma and I. They were concerned about, their members, when they're paying their property tax, being, hit with credit card fees. I did respond that, they can always send checks, but, so, go
And
ahead.
anyway, at that point in time, I think I picked up on the messages, on the messaging too, and I said, I think this is something that we really do need to discuss as a board. How are we going to do this? Because we do have the opportunity to, do the drop boxes as well as the mail-in, and we can drop off also the fees too. But, we need to find out what the economic impact of this is.
Yeah, when it was asked to put it on the agenda, immediately called the attorney to test the legal waters. Their initial reaction is, well, that's a commutation of taxes because we usually collect. They then found a statute that specifically authorizes you to not implement fees if you don't want to. I called Rachel's office, and Rachel got her staff together and has come up with the appropriate information that you need from the impact to the technical aspects of implementing it and other things that we hadn't even thought of. So I thank Rachel
Yeah,
for her own difficult circumstances for pulling this together with very, very, very short notice.
Yeah, that was done within one day.
Yeah, this was done from a 6 a.m. text that Roma and I got yesterday morning, so.
Yeah, and I didn't get it until afternoon, but we have good staff. So, I don't know where to begin, but let me start with, all right, total property tax real estate and personal property is 560, I'm going to round up, it's $561 million that we billed out in December. Just $561 million. So, just, I just want to throw this out there. If everybody, for all those dollars, which that it is never going to happen, paid by credit card, that would be almost $13 million. If 30%, it would be almost $4 million in fees. Now, we do, that's 2.35. There are people like myself that pay online with a credit card, and that is only $1. Doesn't matter the amount, it's not 5%, it's just $1, and there are people that do that. Though, if there wasn't a credit card fee, they might pay with their credit card. And I don't know to what extent. Any escrow will probably come in by check or wire. Our big one's wire.
Bigger one's wire.
And most of our commercial pay by check too. All right, that said, right now, for the first half, as of this morning, first thing this morning, first half that's unpaid is $123 million. That is, we're still waiting to get paid by.
Out of 560.
Yes. Well, no, the 560 is the whole amount. So you
Okay.
divide that in
That's
half.
million, okay, yeah, million.
okay, so
So the first half is,
260, so you're about halfway there.
right.
Half.
So, yeah, we are about halfway there. So if you figured credit card fees for that of just 30%, that would be $868,000 in fees. If 30% of what's outstanding paid by credit card.
868 now.
And that's assuming that people are only paying the first half. There will be some people that will pay the whole amount. Now,
So 868 lost fees, and that is just representative of.
if they're not
the second-
lost
well, okay.
fees, it would be a cost to the county,
Right.
because right now, the credit card company collects those fees and keeps them. We see nothing of it.
Okay.
Because
it's a
I thought
processing
this was
cost.
so difficult to
be-
put together, because we don't have this information sitting over there. She had to glean it from the credit card.
So we would actually have to be paying it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So $868,000 cost to the county.
Well, it's all entities, right?
It's what?
It's all entities that collect property tax. That's split among the city,
Well,
the schools.
No.
That's property tax and personal.
If you have an agreement that. to
That
get
could be.
reimbursement from them, I mean, the contract is with the county. We don't have any agreements with any of these other political subdivisions that
Yeah.
you're gonna pay a portion of these fees. We put the bill for everybody.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I know
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, well, it was a thought. And these are due the 31st,
The 31st.
the 31st.
And there is no authorization in this room to change that. No-
Right,
nobody
that's state
here can-
statute.
That's a state statute.
What kind of calls are you getting since it was been in the paper?
Not too much. There was, of the three people I saw in the hallway, one was upset not about the property tax payment. He said, I can do that online, but I have, he had inheritance tax. And he was a little disgruntled, and, well, you can mail that in. The other two were okay. I mean, people are using the Dropbox. Where the city has graciously allowed us to put our, we can collect in that Dropbox that's over here off of 9th Street. It's just been really nice. And a lot of people are using the Dropbox on North 46th Street too, for their motor
Okay.
vehicle stuff, so.
And that's all on your website, the drop
It's-
boxes?
Everything of what they can do is on our website. Addresses to mail, phone numbers, even to email addresses, some of the, more key for the motor vehicle side. But property tax is pretty, there aren't a lot of questions people have with property tax, except for maybe how much, so.
So you have two Dropbox sites, one here at the City County Building and also one at 46th Street.
Yes, and we're advertising, they can put property tax
Okay.
money at 46th
There's
Street.
a sign on the boxes themselves, temporary signage that just says your Dropbox.
There is down, at this one, I know for sure, I don't know exactly what the verbiage is on 46th Street, but I will check and make sure that it includes property tax. But we've been getting property tax all along, ever since it's been there.
Okay, well,
Put a stamp on it, that's the
We're
correct
not- We're
answer.
not hearing a lot of
think
complaints.
so.
And, originally I thought that this would be, a gesture to our community, but whatever day we institute it, then what about the people who paid the day before? And then it'd be
There's
refund
good options.
request and,
Well, yeah, and that gets rather expensive if we go
Yes.
back, and it would be very difficult. I mean, I
Right.
would recommend if you did it,
And-
to only put out that you're doing it from this day forward.
And the real cost of the taxpayers wouldn't change because it would then just be paid by county taxpayers out of property tax
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
So,
except that the
Right.
county property taxpayers are covering the cost for the schools,
right,
the city.
right, if anything, we'd just be subsidizing somebody else.
Yeah. This begs the second question, I don't want to get too far off track, is those fees sound outrageous to me. That
They
this-
sound
These credit card
wildly high.
companies are making a killing off of this, and maybe there's.
so it's either,
legislation
sometimes
that
it's
we
a
could-
dollar and sometimes
It's
it's.
$1 to do it with an online check, ACH.
Oh, ACH, okay.
ACH, because that's easier to make sure that they have the money and you're going to collect it. But with a credit card, there is a risk.
Okay.
So that's why. And we do also have the $5 maximum if they pay with a Visa debit card. Because we're still in the pilot, although there's not been much talk about that lately,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, well, online payments, this is something that's done by choice or by convenience, if they want to do it this way. But there are plenty of other opportunities. Mail and the two drop boxes, that they can handle it. And so I think that we can respond back to some of the folks that, there's different choices.
I think those are really good options. They're accessible.
Yeah, it was worth having the conversation, but.
Yeah,
No.
Great discussion, great discussion.
yeah, thank you for
the work
finding
on
that.
that.
That
Thank you
has,
so much, Rachel.
Well,
that
I
has
think your
clarified
decision
a
is
whole lot.
good because when I was working at the university, when they went from paying those fees to then instituting, that people had to pay them the convenience fee, it was a horrible ordeal. So to go and backtrack after putting it into place would not be something I would recommend. That there was a huge outcry, but it was only short-lived, and
The new normal.
it became the new normal because universities across the country were doing the same thing.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a question
you.
that was asked, and
Yeah,
I think
no,
that now we
it's
can
good,
talk to our
thank you.
constituents.
Yeah, it was discussed and for various reasons.
Holy smoke, that's a lot of money.
Well, and it's
Well,
also
to
that.
Carrie's point.
Yeah, and it's also just the short time frame. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking 11 days.
Yeah.
And so to try and institute something, we're going to have such a small window. I think
Yeah.
it's going to cause more confusion, reinstitute it. At some point, when the pandemic is past, then,
And to Rachel brought this up, a lot of people have already paid, and they now don't have the opportunity to use their cashback credit cards.
I think Carrie's point is very well made, though, that the fees are outrageously high.
Let's put
And
that on
probably
our
need to be. and-
Interim study maybe.
Yeah. I think that might be a really.
Lancaster County.
Yeah, the interplay here is I think most merchants are absorbing these costs. and
Yeah.
everything with
Right.
Credit card companies here, it's the credit card holder is seeing these costs.
Right.
And I'll bet you they're way higher than the merchants pay over
I'm
the course of this.
thinking so.
This is incredible, it
30%.
really is.
So, yeah, shining a light on what's going on with your little piece of plastic.
Maybe one of those interim studies.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it's worth,
How
we'll
to-
put it on the
how to
list.
Foster and develop online
think
payments by credit cards for taxes and other
I
things.
think that's well worth
I
it.
agree.
All right. Department of Continuity Operations Plans, COOP plans.
Okay, well, we've collected them from pretty much everybody. I have 4 agencies that haven't submitted them. 2 of them are courts though, so
To what?
county court and juvenile court haven't sent me a plan. I have a pretty solid plan from district court. So they'll probably
Might be very similar.
Yeah.
fall into some of that, and some of that, I mean, we can't control everything that happens over the
Oh, no.
So I don't have one from the engineer public defender.
Okay.
So my plan with these, I'm meeting with Shannon Anderson, the city's risk manager, and Sue Eckley, our risk manager. We're gonna look through them and talk about if everybody has the right components, what we're missing, and then what we need to do to create an overall one.
Good.
That's more of a long-term.
Yes,
probably.
it is.
Right.
It is.
Now, is there a possibility those could be posted on the intralink so we can see them, or because it's not consistent, we don't want to do that
It's
yet?
not consistent enough that I'd want to do that, and I want to make sure that we maintain, some of those have secure
Right.
items,
Oh,
so I
good
think we need
point,
to
good point.
be cognizant of
I
it. yeah.
didn't think about that.
So, well, I'm glad we have them.
Everybody's done a great job getting them back,
Good.
so.
Good. We need them from the public defender, and we need them from the county engineer. And I had a conversation on Tuesday with the county engineer. She has one,
I know she has one, and,
and she was,
because she paid for one,
and she was adamant that we would have it, so.
and maybe I missed it.
Well,
That's entirely possible.
Just
I can
give me
reach
a
back out
reminder
to
from the
her.
chair to the public defender would help.
Yes.
I think that the chair should have a beer with
Second.
Okay, is that a motion?
All right. Is there anything else we want to discuss regarding the continuity of operations plans?
I guess just for our meetings,
Yes.
and if you could just kind of go through maybe a little bit of what you talked with Jamie, and just, I mean, I don't know at what point we want to begin, Zoom meetings.
So we can do that, we have the capability to do that. The challenge with that is we still have to figure out a way to provide for public interaction, and we still have to project it down here, so they have to be able to come here and watch it somewhere if they can't watch it elsewhere. Now, if we were to close the buildings, that might change that. Carrie, can you weigh in on that? If we close the buildings, how does that work in terms of public participation for the meetings?
Makes it difficult for them to come and participate in person. They can still see the meeting online.
Right.
Maybe if we set up some email thing for them to send in questions.
Live questions, kind of?
Live
I don't know.
questions. We're not like the city council, which always has a lot of their people that come, their hobbyists that come to every
Right.
meeting and talk at every meeting. We don't have any big items on the agenda. We could hold off maybe on any that we can that would require. a public
And
hearing.
Jamie can do it for us via Zoom. We can,
We're not, having us there, I guess, I don't know if there's comfort in that. It certainly makes it easier technologically than having a remote video conference meeting.
Right.
Still projecting it, people can watch it.
Right.
People can raise questions. Also, under the Open Meetings Act, you don't have to allow public comment at every meeting,
Yeah.
but you can't prevent it entirely. So maybe you do something in that regard where you
can we just direct people to the contact us form on our website if they have something that they want to share with the county board? Is that enough public interaction?
What did Joe Coco say, unprecedented times? I don't know the answer to that.
Can we either just remove the public comment, line, or institute something that says, due to current, restrictions, a public comment will be taken, via email to commish, and just, we post the agenda, it's right there.
The online version could have a link to just send your comment.
What if we did one in-person meeting a month?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
We do one in-person meeting a month here, we allow public comment then. Is that
You
enough?
regulate the crowd.
Yeah.
They don't generally flood in to see.
No.
No, it's normally department directors.
Unless we're talking about animal confinement or, wait till you get a dog kennel and those are even.
The other thing though is if we were to have a confirmed case in the county, I think you want to to set an example of how people should be behaving.
I agree.
So,
And if any one of us are, self-quarantine because a family member, then you just don't want to be able to
Restaurant notice,
participate.
I think you better start planning for
We
video
can-
conferencing.
we
either
can have
figuring
Jamie
out
come
better
out,
to do
we'll
that.
need to stay probably about an hour, and he has to help walk us through a
You do it by
dry
Zoom.
run of how Zoom would work.
It's Tuesday after the meeting.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So next Tuesday, we are planning on still doing an in-person meeting.
I feel that we should do in-person meetings as long as we think.
I agree with you.
Because if we are asking other staff to report,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
feel like
No, I
we
agree.
should be present as well. I think we need to be smart about that.
Right.
And there may also be a time when we don't.
And I agree 100% with you, because I think that this is one of the times where the county board members need to show leadership. If we are asking people to be here, and if we are, at various places, I think that we need to have a presence here. And until it absolutely becomes necessary or fearful, I think that we need to be here and say, listen, we're calm, cool, and collected. We're not paranoid,
I
okay?
think things like we distanced ourselves Tuesday. We're a little tighter here,
Yeah.
but those kinds of things, I think we should be doing good practices.
Why are we in this room? Because I believe.
Because there's no phone connection in there.
Yeah.
There'd be
We
no
moved it,
phone,
we moved it back
and there
into
isn't
the-
anything on that desk? Wow.
Then I go back to saying, let's put my cell phone in a red Solo cup and do it that way. I've done plenty of conference meetings that way.
Yep.
So, but I.
But I still think we should at least practice.
We need to
Practice,
practice, we
just,
need to have
you
a
know,
plan.
100% agree with you too,
Yeah.
because I think we do need to practice, should that contingency arise.
But keep,
Yes.
Situational awareness, I believe is the
Yeah.
term that
Yeah.
applies
There
here
you go.
versus paranoia.
So, the thing is that Lincoln, does not have any public, it's probably here,
Diagnosed.
but we don't have any defined cases yet, and it's not rampant, anything like that. But just as we have people going to the hospitals, if we have people going to the various places of businesses, we need to set the tone that we are calm, cool, and collected.
I think that's well said.
And we are elected
I think we
leaders.
need to be present for our employees.
Yes.
too.
and we could spread out here. I mean, we could utilize those tables and just have us spread out a little.
We'll practice Tuesday after.
We'll do a dry run on Tuesday.
Yeah, we might be able to do that as a non-meeting, we still let press come and watch, but that's a training session and not really a county board meeting, but, so it's not like we
So
have to
it would just be
allow
like a
public
staff
in.
meeting after.
Yeah, well, it's not even a staff meeting, it's
Just
a
a
training
training.
session. We'll
We're not
schedule a
making
training
any-
session.
We're not-
Riley, you have better things to do than watch us learn
Right.
Zoom, right?
If you really want to watch us figure out how to do Zoom.
That might be your,
on the next day, so I need some material.
that might be your best, that might be your
We'll
best.
try
call.
our best to be entertaining.
Actually, it might not be a bad idea to do that, so that others in the public know that they should also be doing that.
Saturday Night Live is shut down, so the county board learning Zoom could be.
Oh, that could be a real comedy. And that could actually,
I've watched this before with Open Gov,
Yeah.
so just saying.
All right,
Okay, sorry.
just saying.
all good. Let's,
Just one other thing that I thought about, that they talked about at mutual aid that I found interesting. 911 has split, they have the backup center at the fire station, and so they are running two separate teams now. So if, one team has an infection, they are still able to operate, and I found that very interesting, just another way that we're planning. So they're utilizing the remote backup headquarters at the fire station.
is there anything else regarding COVID-19 and county preparedness for it?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Are you going to have a policy in place for working from home?
That is what will be coming. That's, I think, part of what.
I intend to have people working from home,
Right.
just to minimize,
Right.
Right now, all department heads, electeds, and everybody are empowered to send home any staff that they feel can work from home successfully, right now. So you can just do that right now.
It's at your discretion.
It is at your discretion.
I've got some resistance from staff wondering if that's going to be an issue there, and I said, there shouldn't be, so.
Not at all.
I shouldn't say resistance, but questions, I
Not at
guess, so.
all, not at all. I encourage right now,
Yeah,
I encourage every department head and elected official to send any staff who can be working from home, send them home. But we've done it at your discretion because you know your department
Right.
is fundamentally better.
But I
than
mean,
we-
there would be a policy at some point.
Yeah, we are looking at that.
And I think this points, that this should have been place previously, a work it from home kind of, you know.
We certainly
But
agree,
it
we,
wasn't, so you
everybody,
gotta scramble
we
now.
all could have been better prepared.
Yeah. And I don't mean that as a criticism, but we've had
There you go.
questions from staff before about wanting to work from home, and we had to say you couldn't do that because of weather and so forth, and,
Right.
you know.
Well, I think this is specifically.
One question I'd ask you, Dan, then we had a lengthy discussion about closing your office. Did I miss the email from you, or have you made a decision?
We're not closed, we're taking appointments for marriage license, we're doing one an hour.
Okay.
And then we're trying to minimize, instead of sitting right in front of them to do the license, they fill out the stuff and then
Social distance.
But you're closed for
we
walking
do it from a
traffic,
different,
right?
So,
Dan?
yeah, not people just coming off the street.
well, what we were seeing was an increase in people coming in. I don't know if it's panic, because this time of year it picks up, but not as much as we were seeing. So you got 2, 3, 4 couples in the office, and that just wasn't a good situation. I'm very concerned about not being able to issue marriage license, because you have things coming into play, inheritance, benefits, and so forth, things that, you know,
So, sounds like you've got a strong plan in place for
Sounds like
1 an hour.
I mean, it's, you know,
Absolutely. You're using that discretion
well,
to
I mean,
make decisions.
we want to be smart about this, and, you know, it's something we haven't, it's a difficult situation, but we want to be as accommodating as we can. My concern is if we do get exposed, then we will have to close, and then that goes away completely, so we hope that doesn't happen.
Right.
We all do.
Do you want to establish some sort of protocol or trigger point for if you, like, if this were to expand over the weekend with PVC in terms of potentially closing buildings? I just want to make sure you're all on the same page.
Yeah, we may need to discuss having an emergency conversation, you know, calling an emergency meeting of the Public Building Commission to have that discussion of when we start closing those things. You know, recognize this will escalate over the weekend, escalate exponentially. We are 10 days, I completely agree, the best thing to do is to remain calm, to continue. I'm glad we're meeting on Tuesday in person, I support that. But recognize that yesterday, the last time I saw the numbers, it was 7,000 cases. I'm sure it's higher than that now, but that was the last time I saw the numbers. There were 7,000 cases in the US. We're on track to have 60,000 cases by next Tuesday.
But don't you wonder about the wisdom of people going to Florida for spring break?
Yes, wildly.
Every year.
Returning to Lincoln, I mean, I just,
Oh, very
you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wildly irresponsible at the moment. And I was proud of our city. I got out of, I was working late at downtown on Tuesday night. I got out and Lincoln was a ghost town on St. Patrick's Day. And I was proud of our community, I really was. That's exactly the kind of thing we need to do. It's not fun, but it's exactly what we need to be doing. So,
I think,
Yep.
yeah, a request to the PBC, so they have that trigger point, and I also think we need to continue to have conversations with the courts. It's gonna be really hard.
Yeah.
You know, if we're closed and they're open, or they're closed and we're open, I think we need to be consistent across the campus. And,
Right.
you know, even then, we still have, you know, Kim Atherton. I mean, she's,
Oh, yeah.
so we're gonna close the building, but we're still gonna have public coming in. So there's gonna be some touchy situations, and also, what does that mean if we close the building for, you know, Dave Shively? So it's,
I just think it's an important conversation for you to
No,
have
it's-
before we have to do it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the time to have the conversation.
so who's on, can we request the PBC next Tuesday afternoon?
Well, we're wondering if there's a crisis develops over the weekend and whether we ought to be open, period.
Right, Monday morning, the doors should be locked.
Okay, maybe can we have Karen, no, you have to have the 2 days notice?
No, emergency meeting, if you can qualify as a crisis, gives you some wiggle room under open meetings act.
Karen was watching this meeting about an hour ago because she sent me a text message asking me to move closer to my microphone because she couldn't hear me. So I think Karen is aware of our request at this moment, and if she's not, we'll call her as soon as we get out of the...
Okay, that'd be fine, let's have her call that.
Well, and because of the declaration by the governor,
Yeah.
you guys could do it by conference call.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, quickly. Who's on PBC? You are, and, okay.
Yeah.
And then Jane and,
Jane and
Richard
Richard and
Dennis,
Chris
and then-
Callahan.
Yeah, so there's not that many calls.
Yeah, we could do it quite simply. Okay, very good.
More meetings?
Is there anything else that we need to discuss regarding COVID-19? Hearing none, then we will jump down to finish up discussion of board member meetings with General Assistance Monitoring Committee.
Yeah, so we met via Zoom, and it went really well. It also made the meeting go very quickly because there was no real chit-chat, those conversations you like to have, you know, when you get together in person. So it was pretty quick. The biggest things, we did talk about COVID-19 and how that's affecting their department. They are trying to do everything online and via telephone. They do have a few situations where people either just walk in, or there are a few forms that they really do kind of have to have in person, but they're trying to eliminate that, doing things by mail, email, and telephone as much as possible, and have been successful in that. One thing that we did talk about was the previous time when we met, they noticed that they had not had very many hits coming from the website, and they were very concerned about that because that was a real drop, and the website had just been new at that time. Was that a problem? What it is that isn't a number that's being tracked and reported. So it's not a problem. It's not hidden on the website or anything like that. And then the other bit was moving the $300,000 that, because of the Medicaid expansion anticipation, that funding needed to be moved. Dennis was going to go ahead and take care of that, but that had been previously authorized. That was really what we did.
The District Promotion Bureau, it did not meet this month because it's actually February, I think it was just a misprint.
I would add that Deb and I attended a meeting Friday morning. It was a follow-up to the last Justice Council meeting. And it was a select subset of that Justice Council to discuss information provided by Chief Blymeister of the Lincoln Police Department. I'm going to reach out to Chief Blymeister and ask him if he can forward those slides. But it was very informative about the trends that the Lincoln Police Department has seen over the course of the last 10 years, what their numbers are, what arrests they're making and in what quantities. What I found fascinating out of it, Deb, was the fact that the largest single group of arrests they have, and by far the largest, is warrants. That is 2.5 to 3 times as big as the next category. So important information that hopefully I'll be able to share with you.
And, just looking at Brad's jail trends and how they intersected with, the police department's trends, it was very informative.
The biggest conclusion to come out of it was that people are staying longer in our jail. That's one of the big drivers of increasing jail population.
And we have the Habitat Builders, Community Builders Breakfast, which was canceled on there. So
They
no
did
report.
reschedule it.
Yes, it is. Is that the one that July date?
I forget the rescheduling date. Great organization, looking forward to joining them at a later time.
Okay, I move we adjourn and stay safe.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.